Welcome back to the Penn News Hour, coming to you from the studios of Free People Radio, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the belly of the beast, where we suffer communism in the upper Midwest. David Penn, your host. The subject of this segment is tariffs and the negotiating strategies being employed by the Trump administration to reset the terms of international trade. Let's listen to a clip from uh, Secretary of Treasury Bessent.
Trump's strategy really has been to announce these tariffs, then dial some back, pause them, make exceptions. Explain why you see this as a good negotiating strategy.
Well, in game theory, it's called strategic uncertainty. So you're not going to tell the person on the other side of the negotiation where you're going to end up. And nobody's better at creating this leverage than President Trump. He's shown the high tariffs, and here's the stick. This is where the tariffs can go. And the carrot is come to us, take off your tariffs, take off your non-tariff trade barriers, stop manipulating your currency, stop subsidizing labor and capital, and then we can talk. But I tell you, Martha, that we've had several of these Asian countries that come in and said, oh, well, we'll stop doing this, this, and this. And I look at these lists and I think, how did we get here? How did we get here? Because this trading system has been so unfair. And as President Trump says, I don't blame the countries. I blame the previous administrations that let them get away with it.
So the point that Secretary Bessent is bringing out, if you leave your door open, how about make it easier? You leave your garage door open, and you got your lawnmower in there and all your implements and tools and uh, lots of things of value, and you leave your garage door open, and you go to sleep at night, and you come the next morning to the garage, and your lawnmower is gone, and all your tools are gone. Is that a surprise when you leave your garage door open? In a very similar fashion, the garage door of international trade, in other words, having a border, uh, was left open by president after president, actually going back to who? Ronald Reagan would be the moment that international trade and one world economy really got entrenched here in the United States. And the idea was maybe one of some altruism. I have to say, as if you're a new viewer, you can come over to the Professor Penn podcast. I've got 200 episodes about these issues on YouTube. I've been I'm what you would call a reformed globalist. I was involved in international trade since 1987 when I started importing goods from Korea, and I was in China in 1993, and that's because I'm in the tire business. And as it is today, right now, today, 75% of the consumer tires that go on your vehicle at home, 75% of those tires are imported. So it's impossible to be in the tire business in 2025 without trading in goods made overseas. When I started in the tire business in 1979, virtually 100% of the tires we used here in this country were manufactured here. So from 79 to 2025, I mean, that's a big decline in U.S. domiciled manufacturing capability in the tire business. And that's really the same in all businesses. And it was a policy. It was a policy that was put in place for many reasons. Uh, there was a belief, and if you're younger, you probably aren't in touch with it. There was a belief going back to 1946 at the end of World War II that a integrated worldwide economic system, a one world economy, would lessen the likelihood of a Holocaust or another world war. Uh, but I think at that time, even at the beginning, the powers that be, the international banking system knew that one world economy and international trade would aggregate resources to a very small group of people who controlled international trade and would diminish the net worth and the political independence of the middle class here in the United States, where we have a governance which is Republican. And when I say Republican, I don't mean the party. I mean a Republican philosophy where every citizen is the sovereign of their own lives. where they're free, where we protect the rights of minorities, where we live in a country where people are free to pursue their own lives, their own liberties, and their own happiness, rights that are granted to each citizen, not by some government of men, but by a creator who imbued the whole thing with these natural rights. And I think the powers that be knew that to restore for them what they want, which is economic and political control internationally, to wrest the power of governance away from we the people and put it into the hands of rulers, technocrats, bureaucrats, and administrators, that would require a mechanism to make people poor. And what a eloquent strategy to use the concept of free trade, because free trade focuses everyone on what the price of goods are. You know, the low price guarantee, it has to be the lowest price. And if it's going to be the lowest price, then production is going to move to the lowest cost countries, which was China, and now it's spread out to Vietnam and Malaysia and Indonesia and Pakistan and India, et cetera, and so on, where there are masses of people that'll work at a small, tiny fraction of what Americans are willing to work for here in the United States. So this was policy aimed at possibly reducing the likelihood of war, but it was also a policy that was about free trade and creating one world economy, which is a Trojan horse bringing us one world governance. And President Trump has come into this one world governance, one world economy architecture, and he is very systematically destroying it. And why is he doing that? Because he was elected by American citizens who have decided that globalism is not beneficial to their lives or the lives of their family members. And we the people elected President Trump on this issue. And let me draw a connection for you. Uh, President Trump is really allegedly in the polls, if you can trust the polls, suffering because of his tariff policies. But he's still looking very good on the immigration issue. Actually, they're the same issue. They're separated by the press that want low cost goods to be seen differently than low cost labor and unrestricted immigration. Actually, it's about having a border, having a sovereign nation, because a sovereign nation that has a defendable border controls immigration and trade equally, because unrestricted immigration, free immigration, and free trade are the same thing, just a little bit different. So when the decision was made by our elites starting in 1946 and then quickened by President Reagan in 1981, and then every successive president up till President Trump strengthened the one world governance, one world economy idea, uh, it was President Trump that said no. It was President Trump elected to reestablish America as a sovereign nation. That's why President Trump said America is headed for a golden age. America is a country. America is a nation. I reject as a commentator, I reject one world governance, and I reject it on a very simple basis. The governance is too far from my neighborhood. I believe that each of us as citizens have the right and the responsibility to be involved in the local political process, that I am the sovereign of my own life. Obviously, if we move to one world governance, governance is so far from my life that I'm governed, I can't self govern. So, on that basis, I reject one world economy. I want to see a strong border because it defines us as a nation and it preserves my right to self govern. If you're interested in self governance, please go to precinctstrategy.com. It's going to share with you everything you need to know to get into the game of politics and to pursue your life and your liberty and your happiness as is your right in this great republic. Thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to seeing you soon again.